So what I have here today is a Tecumseh powered Simplicity snow thrower. I did take the spark plug out, squirt some starting fluid in there, reinstalled it. We do have spark and it did pop off, so it is a fuel problem. The fuel line is very out of whack there, as well as inside of the fuel tank is kind of janky, so I'm going to clean that out and then we'll work on the carburetor. Okay, I just connected the fuel line underneath the tank, took these two screws out here, pulls right out. I'm going to take some mineral spirits here, put it in there, and then clean out the gunk. Okay, I reinstalled the tank there. This was pretty much bent over to connect it to this, and this is a special hose, fuel hose, that has to go on the inside of the engine there. There's a very small spot, so it's thinner than typical 1/4 inch fuel hose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and put a straight valve in here and another piece of hose there and get rid of that sharp bend on there. Okay, on the opposite side of the machine here, there is supposed to be a screw there, one up here on the other side of the muffler, and then 2 screws here. These 2 are missing, so I'm going to take these 2 off, as well as take and pull our choke knob off. And choke knob pulls straight off there. Now we can take and drop this down. This is for our primer here. Obviously that is no good. There's a pretty big hole in there, so obviously that wasn't working. Still seems pretty good. I think I'll just cut the end off there and put it back on. I'm going to give this a good clean in here on the outside first with some brake clean. Just going to use some brake parts cleaner. You might want to wear some eye protection on while you're doing this. Next, I'm going to take the bottom of the carburetor bowl off. This happens to be a 7/16. Some of them are 1/2 inch. Okay, bottom of the carburetor bowl here is pretty disgusting. We'll go ahead and clean that up with some carburetor cleaner. Our main issue here is our main jet is plugged, and what I have is some tip cleaners for gas welding, and you can buy these pretty inexpensively. This hole right here is supposed to go all the way through, is completely plugged, and then there is a smaller hole up on the body of it, and we want to make sure that is clear as well. Many of these have a fixed jet in there, and this one happens to be in an adjustable one, so you can take that out. A lot of times there is material on here, and that's not good. So I'm going to take a soft brass brush and then clean that off, and then we're going to run our tip cleaners through here, get that cleaned out, and spray it out real good with some carburetor cleaner. Hopefully you can see this okay. I had a hard time focusing on the close-up with my camera. There is a little tiny hole there. Goes at an angle right above the threads. And if you don't have a set of tip cleaners like this, if you take like a strand of a wire brush or whatever, you can stick it in there and clean that up. Okay, got that cleaned out. It was pretty skunky fuel in there. Turned to varnish. This washer on the bottom here, I think I'm going to replace that. Looks a little sketchy, and that'll be leaking fuel. Okay, I got a new gasket for the bottom there. Just going to get rid of the one that's on there. Okay, we'll reassemble this here. We'll go and we'll tighten that down. You'll feel it just go slow till it gets tight. Then we're going to back it off 1.5 turns. That'll give us a good starting point for when we fire it up. We'll put our new gasket on there. And we can reinstall this. First I'm going to clean the bottom of the carburetor. So the bottom of the carburetor here's our float. And you want to make sure that is moving very freely. If not, we'll have to take the pin out of there and clean that up, and I may even do that. And I'm just going to spray around here. Spray these little holes here with some carburetor cleaner. Okay, on the front of the carburetor here, or on the side actually, I'm going to remove one of these screws here off this bracket, loosen the other one. This bracket will fall down. I'm going to take a screwdriver and take this screw out of here. What happens with this screw is it'll be surging all the time, so it'll be hunting up and down. So I'm going to take this out. I do have another video just completely on this. As you can see, that it's very gummed up in there and kind of rusty actually. We'll take a brass brush, clean that off of there, and where's some eye protection, we'll clean this. Okay, I got that cleaned up really nice and shiny. Go ahead and put this back in. There's two types of these. One screws in all the way. There's usually a little plastic cap over it. And then one with the spring on here like this. So what you want to do for this type is you go until it stops. And then again, we're going to do 1.5 turns out. That'll be a good starting point. Go and put our screw in here. You can cut that off where it was ripped. We'll put our primer tube back on there. So now I'm going to take this pin out here on the float. Just pull it straight out. And then the float will come down, and there's a plunger on there, and we'll inspect that. Okay, got that pin out of there. Sometimes these are made of steel and they get a little bit of corrosion on there and hinder the movement of the float. You want to inspect your float here, make sure there's no holes in there, shake it a little bit, make sure there's no fuel in there. They made them out of brass, and the tip here is what seals. It's like a valve, so when the fuel goes down, lets more fuel in. When the fuel goes up, it pushes up there. This little needle valve here closes, and shuts the fuel off. And this gasket here is a little sketchy. I'm going to try to clean it up a little bit. If it's too bad, you'll have to replace it. And the bottom of the bowl, usually where it seals, that can get pretty corroded since it's made of aluminum, and you might have to take some steel wool and clean that up. Okay, I just cleaned this up, not with any brush or anything, just some carburetor cleaner. And if you need to adjust your float, it would be this tab right here. You would bend it up or down. And we'll go ahead and reinstall our float. We'll clean this gasket up a little bit and put that back on. Okay, we're ready to install the float here. The needle valve, put it up in the little hole there, and put our pin in. We'll just check our float here, and it should be pretty level with that. I think I'm going to adjust it just a little bit. Put a screwdriver in there, bend that little brass tab up a little. That's better. And then we have the float adjusted there. We'll put our gasket on there. And our carburetor bowl. So the bottom of the bowl is recessed out a little bit. That goes on the outside. Put our main jet in there, and we'll snug that up. Okay, I'm going to add some fresh fuel to it. You should use fuel without any ethanol in it. Okay, we'll see if we can get this thing to fire up here. I'll prime it several times here. Check for leaks. Okay, seems to be running pretty good. So what we'll do is put the cover on there and check the spark plug there. Probably put a new one in there, make sure it starts fresh, and then check the rest of the machine over, and we're all done. Hope you found this helpful. Okay, let it cool down. Found a bolt for there and there. Take our choke knob there, put that on there. We're all done.